Imagine you're like a 10-year-old.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. You've just stumbled into this totally bizarre alien world full of spirits.
Which is terrifying enough on its own.
Oh, absolutely. You are terrified. You're desperately looking for a way to save your parents, who, by the way, have literally been turned into livestock.
Just a completely traumatic Tuesday for a kid.
Seriously. And you finally, after all this sneaking around, you get an audience with the person in charge.
The boss.
The boss. The proprietor of this massive otherworldly establishment. So you walk into this lavish, just ridiculously opulent office, right?
Yeah.
And this towering, really intimidating old woman doesn't even look at you.
Not even a glance.
Nope. She just keeps scribbling on her paperwork. And when she finally, does acknowledge your existence, she doesn't do the typical villain thing.
Right, there's no monologue.
Exactly. She doesn't monologue. She doesn't laugh maniacally.
Right.
With just a casual flick of her wrist, she uses magic to literally zip your mouth shut.
It's so jarring.
It really is. And then she casually sparks a flame on her own finger, uses it to light a cigarette, takes a drag, calls you a weakling.
I mean, it is one of the most viscerally intimidating character introductions in modern animation. You're immediately put in your place.
It's terrifying. And it completely sets the stage for what we're doing today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are talking about Yubaba, the unforgettable proprietor of the Bathhouse in Studio Ghibli's absolute masterpiece, Spirited Away.
Such an incredible film.
But, we aren't just doing a simple movie recap here. We have a very specific mission for the dive.
We do.
We're looking at how a character can take hired, cookie-cutter antagonist tropes, the villain in the black cape or the misunderstood bad guy, and just, shatter them completely.
Break the mold entirely.
Yeah. We really want to figure out what makes a character endure in our cultural memory as a genuine forcer.
And we have some fascinating material on the desk today to help us navigate.
Yes, we do.
We are drawing heavily from a deeply analytical video essay transcript. It's by a creator named Bornock.
Really good stuff in there.
Yeah, their channel is basically entirely dedicated to dissecting complex villains. And we're pairing that with some highly specific phonetic and translation guides regarding the studio and, the original Japanese text.
Perfect. Let me just set the stage real quick for you listening, just in case you haven't watched the film recently or, even if you have.
A little refresher.
Right. So Spirited Away is this visually breathtaking, very deliberately paced, soft fantasy world. Our protagonist, young Chihiro, she accidentally crosses over into the spirit realm.
But it happens so fast.
It does. Her parents gorge themselves on this food left out at an abandoned amusement park, and they're cursed. They are transformed into literal pigs.
Which is such a striking image.
So striking. So Chihiro is suddenly trapped. And to survive in this crazy world of frogmen and radish spirits and river gods without being turned into an animal herself, she has to navigate this labyrinthine magical bathhouse.
And running that entire corporate ecosystem is Yubaba.
Wait, actually, no, not exactly.
Bro.
That is what's so compelling about the Bornock essay we're looking at. It points out that Yubaba totally defies the easy categorization we are so used to.
That's a really good point.
Because think about modern animation. We are constantly spoon-fed the twist villain, right?
Oh, yeah. The character who plays the clumsy best friend for 90 minutes before revealing a master plan.
Yes. Or we get the tragic, abandoned puppy villain.
Right, where the story bends over backward to show you a flashback of them being bullied on a playground, so you'll forgive them for trying to blow up the moon.
Exact. Yubaba isn't it. She isn't secretly nice, and she certainly isn't begging for your sympathy. She is just a highly efficient, unapologetic EO running a magical corporation.
Which is precisely why analyzing her is so deeply relevant to you listening right now.
How so?
Well, we live in a culture that's just saturated with information and these extremely polarized black and white narratives.
Oh, for sure.
People are usually framed as either pure heroes or absolute monsters. But examining someone like Yubaba forces us into the gray areas. It is an exploration of the realities of leadership, the corrupting influence of absolute power, and that complex morality that we all, frankly, navigate when we clock into work every single day.
That is so true. All right, I want to start with something that might seem small at first, but the phonetic guides we pulled make a huge point about it.
The linguistics.
Yes, the linguistics of power, specifically how we say these names. Let's just clear the air immediately because this drives people crazy.
Let's hear it.
The studio is pronounced Ghibli, hard G. It is not Ghibli.
It is a crucial distinction. I mean, when we analyze art, respecting the foundational intent of the creators really has to begin with getting their name right.
Right, and the pronunciation of Yubaba herself is equally specific. The guide breaks down the syllables really carefully.
Also,
Well, the baba part is not pronounced like a sheep going ba. It is a rhythmic, very staccato ba-ba. The guide compares the cadence to the word papa in Spanish.
oh, that makes sense.
Yubaba. It demands a certain respect when you say it out loud.
And the etymology behind those syllables is where the narrative really begins.
What's fascinating here is what it actually translates.
Right. In Japanese, yu translates to hot water, and baba translates to old woman.
Hot water.
Exactly. So literally, her name is Hot Water Old Woman.
Yeah.
On a surface level, that is just a blunt, literal job description for a woman running a bathhouse.
Very literal.
But the Bornok transcript digs into the roots of that name, and it reaches far past a simple Japanese translation. It actually connects directly to Slavic folklore.
Which is wild to me. I mean, how does a Japanese animation studio end up pulling from Slavic myth?
It's incredible cross-cultural pollination.
You are talking about Baba Yaga, right?
I am. Now, when most people hear Baba Yaga, they picture the absolute nightmare scenario.
The house on chicken legs.
Yes, the evil old crone living deep in the dark woods in a terrifying hut that walks around on giant chickens.
It's pure nightmare.
It is. The biggie man who flies around in a mortar and pestle and eats children. That is the dominant cultural footprint we have for her.
Right.
But if you actually read the original folk tales, Baba Yaga is fundamentally a dual entity.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, she is a menacing threat, but in many stories, she is actually a profound, helpful spirit. She acts as a fierce mentor, testing the hero and passing on her magic and her wisdom to those who prove themselves worthy.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because I got to stop you there.
Sure.
If her name literally translates to a mythological figure famous for being both a child-eating monster and a helpful mentor,
Right.
isn't that a massive spoiler? Like, doesn't that just telegraph her entire character arc from the moment the opening credits roll?
I wouldn't classify it as a spoiler at all, actually. I would view it more as a thesis statement for the entire film.
How do you mean?
Well, a spoiler tells you what happens at the end of the plot, right?
Right.
A thesis statement tells you what the story is about. Yubaba's name tells the audience that they cannot rely on standard visual cues.
Okay.
The name demands that we hold two entirely contradictory ideas in our head simultaneously.
That she's good and bad.
That she is the threat of the wit, but she harbors the potential of the guiding mentor.
But doesn't that make it almost, I don't know, too easy for the audience? If I know she's Baba Yaga, I know she's going to eventually help Chihiro.
Not necessarily, because you never know which version of Baba Yaga you're dealing with in any given scene.
Oh, that's true.
Is she going to test Chihiro, or is she going to eat her? It keeps you completely off balance as a viewer. Exactly. And I think there's a broader application here for you listening. Think about how often in the real world we judge an entire situation, company, or an individual purely based on a title.
Oh, all the time.
We hear CEO, and we project an entire personality profile onto that person immediately.
We totally do.
We hear witch, and we do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yubaba's very identity is a direct challenge to that kind of lazy categorization.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You really have to understand the root meaning before you make the judgment.
Precise.
So we have this title, Hot Water Old Woman, steeped in this really complex, dual-natured folklore. But how does that actually manifest when we finally see her on screen?
Visuals are everything here.
Right, because the visual storytelling here is just as important as the linguistics, honestly, if not more so.
The aesthetic choices in her character design are just a masterclass in establishing power dynamics, and they do it without a single line of exposition.
The Bornok essay absolutely goes to town on this point.
It does.
When Chihiro is finally called up to that top floor office, you, the viewer, are really anticipating this godlike, ethereal entity.
Right, because of what you've seen so far.
Exactly. You've just spent 20 minutes watching semi-transparent spirits, massive radish men, and strange amorphous blobs walking around.
This very bizarre soft world.
It is. But then Yubaba turns around in her chair, and she looks surprisingly human.
She possesses all the classic markers of an elderly human woman.
Yeah.
The deeply wrinkled skin, the gray hair pulled back tightly into a bun, the prominent mole right on the bridge of her nose.
But then you realize the scale's completely wrong.
Completely wrong.
Her head is freakishly, monstrously massive compared to her body.
It's unsettling.
Very. She takes up an incredible amount of physical space in the frame. And what really hit me when I was reading this analysis is how completely this subverts the trope we are so used to seeing in media.
Oh, definitely.
And in real life, honestly, there is this sort of expectation that women shrink as they grow older.
Yes.
They become frail. They take up less physical and social space. They kind of fade into the background.
Yubaba obliterates that trope.
She totally does. She does not shrink. She dominates the room physically. She's basically swollen with power.
It is a deliberate visual representation of an oversized ego and the immense hoarding of resources.
Well,
she has absorbed so much wealth and power that it has literally distorted her physical form. And notice how she decorates that form.
oh my, the jewel.
The contrast between the soft spiritual world of the bathhouse and Yubaba's personal aesthetic is so jarring.
She is just dripping in material.
Completely.
The essay lists these details, and it paints such a vivid picture. She has these extravagantly fat, bejeweled, loaded with massive rings. She wears these incredibly heavy, gaudy gold earrings that literally pull down on.
You can feel the weight of them.
You really can.
Yeah.
And she is dolled up thick, heavy lavender eyeliner and eyeshadow.
Every single one of those visual cues screams hypercap.
Yeah.
Before she even speaks to Chihiro, the visual language tells the viewer exactly what this character values.
Which is money.
She values wealth, she values status, and she demands that everyone who looks at her understands precisely how rich she is.
It's such a flex.
It really is. In a realm populated by floating, transient spirits, she is heavy, grounded, and defined entirely by the material goods she hoards.
Reading that section of the transcript, my mind immediately went to a very specific, recognizable, real-world figure.
Let me guess.
She is the ultimate toxic modern boss.
Yep, there it is.
You know the exact type. The executive who will grind their employees into absolute dust.
Mandate unpaid overtime.
Oh, of course. Cut benefits to the absolute legal minimum and then retreat to their plush, temperature-controlled back office to check their stock portfolio while wearing, like, a $10,000 watch.
The comparison is incredibly apt. I mean, Yubaba is the face of unrestrained greed in a fantastical setting.
Yeah.
And we see the mechanics of that corporate cruelty play out immediately in her very first interaction with Chihiro.
Let's talk about that office scene, because the psychological warfare she employs is staggering.
It's hard to watch.
We mentioned the mouth zipping earlier, but look at the setup before that. Yubaba summons Chihiro. But when Chihiro walks off terrified, Yubaba completely ignores her. She just keeps writing on these thick, important-looking contracts. Her desk is literally a fortress of gold coins, heavy pouches, and locked safe boxes.
The intentional ignoring of a subordinate is a classic power.
Is it ever?
It establishes immediately that your time is infinitely more valuable.
Right.
And that their mere presence is an annoyance until you decide otherwise.
And when she finally decides to engage, it's just pure verbal abuse.
She really tears into her.
She demeans Chihiro, calling her an idiot, a weakling, telling her she will give her the most agonizing, painful job in the bathhouse dies.
It's brutal.
It is designed to completely break the spirit of an applicant before they are even hired. But then, and this is my favorite part, the entire dynamic shift.
This is where the brilliance of the writing really shines.
Yes.
Just as Yubaba is peaking in her terrifying intimidation tactic, a noise comes from the adjacent room.
Right. A giant foot kicks through the wall,
It's her baby, Bo.
throwing an absolute tantrum because he wants. And the omnipotent, terrifying CEO completely shatters.
Just falls apart.
Her demeanor evaporates. She goes into a full-blown panic, frantically trying to soothe this unseen giant baby, promising him anything he wants, completely losing all of her.
Why do you think that specific moment is so crucial to her character arc?
I think it's because it proves she isn't just a cardboard cutout of a bad guy.
Exactly.
It would have been so easy for the studio to just make her a one-dimensional evil corporate overlord who cares about nothing but her profits.
And we see that all the time.
All the time. But this panic over the baby, it shows she has a profound, undeniable vulnerability. She has this fierce maternal love. There is one single entity in the universe she cares about more than her gold.
Precisely. It humanizes her in a very bizarre way.
Bizarre is the word.
But practically, within the scene, it also gives Chihiro leverage. The distraction allows Chihiro to keep shouting, "I want a job. I want to work."
She just powers through the chaos.
She does. And this reveals a fundamental mechanism of the world. Yubaba, for all her magic and all her wealth, is not actually omnipotent.
She is bound by an oath.
Yes.
The transcript highlights this heavily. She reveals that she made an ancient oath to give a job to anyone who asks for one. She physically cannot refuse.
Which means she is subservient to a higher, invisible system of rule. Even the CEO has to answer to the bylaws of the universe.
So she is furious, but she has to hire Chihiro. And here is where we get into the bureaucracy of magic.
Which is fascinating.
Which is honestly the most chilling part of her leadership style. She produces a physical employment contract.
Right.
She forces Chihiro to sign it. But when Chihiro signs her real name, Yubaba uses her magic to physically peel the characters of Chihiro's name right off.
It's such a visual violation.
It is. She steals them, capturing them in her hand, leaving only one single character behind. She looks at the child and says, "From now on, your name is Sen."
She literally and magically strips away the child's identity and issues her a new corporate designation.
I really want to spend some time on this because the essayist argues this is a profound metaphor for corporate assimilation.
It absolutely is.
How do you read this scene? Because to me, it feels uncomfortably real.
It is deeply real. Think about the modern onboarding process at a massive corporation.
Okay.
The moment you sign that employment contract, the moment you sign the NDA, a fundamental shift happens.
You're not you anymore.
Exactly. You walk into that building and you stop being your full, multifaceted self. You become a resource. You become employee number 405.
Wow.
You put on the required uniform. You are forced to adopt the company's curated core values. You speak in their specific corporate jargon. Your personal identity is suppressed in service to the brand.
It's exactly that. You give up the rights to your own time and your own output. Yubaba is just taking that very mundane, very human experience of selling your labor and making it literal through magic.
Taking it to the extreme.
By holding Chihiro's real name hostage, she controls her memory, her past, and ultimately her ability to ever.
Right, because if you forget who you were before you took the job,
You can never quit.
it is an insidious form of control. You can't fight back against the system if you don't even remember who you are outside of that.
That is so dark, but so true.
So, we have established her immense power, her greed, and her terrifying method of control. But the true test of any leader, and certainly any antagonist, is how they handle a crisis that threatens their bottom line.
Which brings us to one of the most famous,
The river spirit.
the arrival of the river spirit. The Bornok video transcript spends a lot of time breaking down the mechanics of the scene, perfectly exposes Yubaba's management price.
At the scene.
Okay, so it's a rainy night, and this massive, oozing, foul-smelling entity approaches the bathhouse.
Just a mess.
It is literally a walking mountain of toxic sludge. The stench is so violently awful that their food actually rots in the bowl as it passes by.
It's disgusting.
Everyone is in a panic, and Yubaba, who normally never leaves her pristine top-floor sanctuary, is forced to physically run down the stairs to...
It is a moment of fantastic physical comedy, but it is also deeply revealing.
Oh, the comedy is brilliant. She is literally holding her breath. Her face is turning purple from the smell, but she forces herself to maintain this absolute flawless proprietor decorum.
She doesn't break character.
No, she bows. She welcomes this walking biohazard with extreme professional politeness.
Because the customer is always right, even when the customer is a toxic waste dump.
Exactly.
The business must be protected, and the illusion of hospitality must be maintained at all costs. But look at how she delegates the actual crisis management.
This is where I really saw the malicious side of her leadership.
It was pretty bad.
She is smiling to the monster's face, but she assigns the impossible task of cleaning it to Sen.
Of all people.
Right. She gives the worst, most dangerous job in the building to the newest, smallest, most vulnerable employee. The essayist points out that she isn't just delegating. She is actively trying to break Sen.
It's malicious compliance with her own oath.
Exactly. She thinks, fine, the oath forced me to give you a job, but I'm going to make the conditions so horrific that you will quit, and then I'm off the hook.
It is a setup for total failure. It is a boss assigning a project with impossible deadlines and zero resources, fully intending to fire the employee when they inevitably crash and burn. But of course, Sen doesn't crash and burn.
She doesn't. Sen actually gets in there fighting through the sludge, and she notices something that Yubaba, for all her immense magical power and oversight, completely...
Which is saying something.
Sen finds a thorn sticking out of the monster's side, and she calls out for help to pull it.
And pay close attention to the exact moment Yubaba's attitude changes.
It is instantaneous.
Like a switch flipped.
The moment Yubaba flies down, looks closer, and realizes that the thorn is actually the handle of a submerged bicycle. She realizes this isn't a sludge monster, it's a desperately polluted river spirit.
A very wealthy spirit.
And her entire demeanor flips on a dime. Suddenly, she isn't leaving Sen to drown in the mud. She is floating above the crowd, loudly commanding the room, rallying the troops, tossing ropes, cheering Sen on. Heave!
Heave! She transforms into the ultimate motivational team leader, taking total command of the operation.
Right. And it leads to this incredibly satisfying visual sequence where they use the rope to pull, and this massive avalanche of human garbage pouring out of the spirit.
Bicycles, tires, fishing lines.
Discarded appliances. The spirit is cleansed, it gives a booming laugh, and it leaves. And afterward, Yubaba actually embraces Sen.
She hugs her.
She commends her in front of the entire staff. On a first watch, it really feels like a genuine moment of mentorship. Like, wow, the tough boss finally respects the hard worker.
It absolutely reads that way on the surface. But the Bornock analysis points out the deeply cynical undercurrent of that entire sequence.
Oh, for sure.
Why did Yubaba suddenly intervene? Why did she suddenly care?
Because she saw the goal.
Exact. The transcript argues that Yubaba, being a creature of pure capitalism, recognized the immense wealth hidden beneath the sludge the second she realized it was a powerful river spirit. Very. She let Sen do all the horrific, agonizing, dangerous grunt work of dealing with the toxic waste, and she only stepped in at the very final moment to organize the pull.
She stepped in just in time to take the credit for the success, and more importantly, to ensure she was in the perfect position to hoard the massive reward the spirit left behind on the floor.
The essay makes a specific, very funny, but highly accurate pop culture comparison here.
Yes, it compares her directly to Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants.
It's so good.
And I laughed out loud reading that, but it is a perfect analogy.
It really is.
Mr. Krabs is famous for exploiting SpongeBob's naive, boundless enthusiasm for work, paying him pennies while reaping all the profits.
Yep.
Yubaba operates on the exact same wavelength. Her praise for Sen isn't about Sen's personal growth. It's about Sen maximizing shareholder value at Bathhouse.
And that kind of leadership has a profound impact on the entire ecosystem of the organization. If the person at the very top is driven solely by greed and exploitation, that morality trickles down.
Trickle-down morality. That is exactly what happens with the rest of the Bathhouse.
They follow her lead.
The essay points out that Yubaba's greed completely infects her work. They know she hoards all the wealth and barely...
Right.
So what do? They become greedy and deceitful themselves. They try to hustle for tips behind her back. They hide extra herbal bath. The culture she created is one of constant cutthroat scarcity.
Which leaves the entire organization incredibly vulnerable to disruption. And that disruption arises in the form of kaonashi, or no-face.
No-face is the ultimate test of this toxic culture.
He really is.
He sneaks into the bathhouse and quickly realizes the fundamental flaw in Yubaba's system. The workers are so desperate for wealth that they can be easily bought.
Anyone has a price.
Right. No-Face starts conjuring fake gold, just tossing it on the floor, and the staff absolutely loses their mind.
Complete chaos.
They abandon their posts, they trample each other, they grovel and serve him mountains of food, completely ignoring all protocols.
The system collapses instantly because the workers have no loyalty to the establishment, only to the goal.
Right.
But where is Yubaba during this massive systemic failure?
That is the craziest part. She doesn't intervene when he is bribing her staff.
Nope.
She only gets involved when No-Face literally starts eating the employees and destroying the physical property of the bathhouse.
Property damage crosses the line.
Exactly. And even then, as she is running down the hallway blaming Sen for letting him in, she is still trying to be polite to No-Face.
It's absurd.
She approaches this massive, rampaging, employee-eating monster and tries to respectfully offer him a refund. She prioritizes the customer experience and the profit margin over the literal lives of her staff.
It perfectly illustrates the fatal flaw of hypercapitalism. When profit is the only metric of value, human life becomes entirely expendable. But this sequence with no face also brings us to a critical turning point for Yubaba mechanic character. It is the moment the armor cracks.
Yes, because up until this point, Yubaba seems completely untouched. She has complete domain over this space.
She's a god in her own building.
Right, but the essay highlights a rare moment in cinema. When Yubaba finally decides she has to forcefully evict No-Face, she powers up. She gathers this massive ball of magical energy, blasts him with it, and it does absolutely nothing.
Not a scratch.
No-Face just absorbs it, blasts her back with a geyser of mud, and handily defeats her in front of everyone.
Why do you think the filmmakers chose to have the main antagonist get beaten down by a secondary character right in the middle of the film?
I think it's because it shatters the illusion of her omnipotence.
Exactly.
It shows the audience, and more importantly, it shows Sen, that Yubaba has limits. She is not a god. She is a powerful being, but her magic can be overwhelmed.
Right.
She isn't an unkillable plot device. She's part of a fragile ecosystem.
Her physical and magical vulnerability is exposed, but her deepest emotional vulnerability is exposed climax of the film, and it ties directly back to that one glimmer of humanity we discussed.
Her baby, Bo.
Yes.
The essay recounts this incredibly tense, heartbreaking conflict. Haku, who is Yubaba's magical apprentice, returns to the bathhouse.
And he's in bad shape.
He's in terrible shape. Haku is bruised, bleeding, and literally dying from a curse that he contracted while carrying out Yubaba's own dirty.
And how does she treat him?
She tells her staff to throw him down the garbage. She treats him like broken machinery, disposable corporate trash.
Complete and utter lack of empathy for her most loyal work.
Right. But Haku, despite dying, stands his ground. He looks at her and tells her that she has lost something incredibly valuable, something precious, and she hasn't even...
And her reaction to that statement is the key to her entire psychology.
The essay describes it so beautifully. Haku says she lost something precious. Yubaba's immediate instinctive reaction is to look at her gold.
Of course.
She looks at the massive pile of coins on her desk and she smirks. She thinks, I haven't lost anything. My money is right here.
Because that's what matters to her.
She is so poisoned by her own greed that she equates precious exclusively with capital. But then the magic fades.
The reveal.
The gold in her hands turns to dirt and sand. It was an illusion placed there to distract her.
The realization that the wealth was fake shatters her false sense of security.
And then she looks over at the pile of cushions where her giant baby... She pulls back the blanket, and instead of Bo, she finds 3 bouncing severed greens that have been magic skies.
The decoy baby.
Yeah. She realizes her child has been kidnapped right under her nose while she was busy counting fake money.
In her reaction.
Her reaction is pure, visceral terror and unadulterated. She doesn't just yell. Her face distorts, her eyes bulge, and she literally breathes a massive torrent of fire across the room.
Terrifying.
It is a monstrous display of anger, but it is born entirely out of a mother's desperation.
It forces the audience to reevaluate everything they have seen. Her greed, her coldness, her corporate ruthlessness, none of it matters in that specific moment.
It all just vanishes.
The capitalist facade burns away, leaving only the terrified mother. But to truly understand the depth of this dichotomy in her character, we have to look at the ultimate foil that the narrative introduced.
You were talking about Zeniba.
I am. Zeniba is Yubaba's identical twin sister.
Right.
And the transcript points out a specific quote from Zeniba that is essential. She tells Sen that she and Yubaba are 2 parts that make a whole.
Ah.
This isn't just a throwaway line of dialogue. It is the philosophical core of both characters.
And once again, the linguistics play a massive...
They really do.
The phonetic guide points out something incredible. If you take the Japanese character for Zeniba's name, zeni, which historically refers to money or coin, and you combine it with the yu from Yubaba, hot water, the combination of those 2 characters forms the literal Jap for bath.
They are linguistically and conceptually bound together to represent the institution itself.
It's mind-blowing.
They are 2 halves of the same coin.
I am still trying to wrap my head around that. They literally spell the world they inhabit. But despite being identical twins with the exact same magic, they live entirely opposite lives.
Completely different.
The essay details Zeniba's lifestyle, and it is the exact inverse of Yubaba.
Describe the contrast for us.
Okay, so while Yubaba is drowning in luxury, hoarding gold, surrounded by subservient frogmen, and ruling through intimidation in this massive, chaotic bathhouse, Zeniba lives deep in the woods in a small, modest cottage. She doesn't have an army of servants. She is shown literally spinning her own thread by hand. She laughs freely, she invites Sen in, she makes tea, she spends quality, nurturing time with her guests.
She even takes in no face.
Yeah, she gives him a quiet, full-purpose spinning thread instead of assuming every sight.
If we circle back to our folklore discussion at the top of the deep dive, the picture becomes complete.
Right. If Yubaba represents the terrifying, child-eating, menacing side of the Baba Yaga myth, Zeniba represents the helpful, guiding mentor spirit of the exact same folklore.
The 2 parts that make a whole.
Exactly.
But beyond the folklore, Zeniba serves a crucial narrative purpose regarding Yubaba's morality. Zeniba proves what Yubaba could be.
Ah, I see.
Zeniba demonstrates that the greed, the extravagant jewelry, the cruelty, the obsession with contracts, it is all a choice.
It's not baked into who she is?
Exactly. It is a thick layer of capitalist sludge that Yubaba has allowed to accumulate over her soul. Because we know, based on her fiery reaction to losing Bo, that deep down, Yubaba still possesses the capacity for deep, fierce love. Zeniba is living proof that a different, kinder path was entirely possible for someone with the exact same origins and the exact same power.
Which brings us to the conclusion of Yubaba's arc. And true to everything we've discussed today, it completely defies traditional Western storytelling.
Walk us through the climax of their relationship.
All right, so Sen manages to retrieve the baby, Bo, from Zeniba and brings him safely back to the bathhouse. Yubaba is overjoyed to have her child back.
Naturally.
But she doesn't just hand Sen her freedom. She insists on one final rigid challenge. She tells Sen that to break the contract and free her parents, Sen must identify her parents from a large group of identical...
It is a classic fairy tale test, seemingly designed to be impossible.
Exactly. Yubaba assumes Sen will fail, ensuring she stays a slave to the bathhouse forever. But Sen looks at the pig, focused, and realizes it is a trick.
She sees through it.
She confidently states that none of the pigs are her parents.
And she is correct.
She is correct. And this is the moment where a lesser film would have Yubaba snap.
Oh, totally.
A traditional villain would fly into a rage. They would say, "Ha, I lied," and try to blast the hero with magic. They would refuse to accept defeat. But what does Yubaba do?
The essay makes a profound point here. She honors the contract.
She does. She looks shocked. She looks defeated. But she honors the agreement. The magical contract dissolves. She lets Sen and her parents go unharmed.
She plays by the rules.
She literally watches them walk away. Because despite all her flaws, she is not a monster seeking destruction for the sake of destruction.
Right.
She is a cunning, deeply flawed, greedy businesswoman, but she is strictly bound by a specific set of cultural and magical, and she adheres to them.
And those rules, the mechanics of her world, are left deliberately vague by the filmmaker, which is a huge part of the genius of this narrative.
The Bornok transcript spends its final section highlighting the power of these unanswered questions. Think about everything we don't know about Yubaba by the time the credits roll.
It's a lot.
We never find out exactly what the ancient oath was that bound her to hire anyone who asked. We never find out what happened between her and Zeniba to cause such a massive rift between the twins. We don't know the corporate history of the Bathhouse or how she ascended to the position of CEO. We have absolutely no idea who her husband is or how she ended up having a giant baby.
And that lack of information is highly intentional.
Okay, I actually have to challenge you and the essayist on this point.
Let's hear it.
Because as a modern audience, we are incredibly conditioned to want all the answers.
That's very true.
If this movie came out today, fans would be screaming for a prequel series on a streaming service. We want the origin story. We want the wiki page detailing every single aspect of her trauma and her rise to power.
Right.
Is leaving it vague actually better, or is it just withholding information? Does modern media over-explain villains, or are we just demanding better world building?
I completely understand that impulse.
Yeah.
We crave complete data sets.
Yeah.
But I would argue, and the source material firmly argues, that modern media absolutely over-explains its antagonists to its own detriment.
How so?
When a film pauses the narrative momentum to give you a 15-minute flashback of the villain being pushed into a mud puddle as a child,
Right.
to mathematically justify why they now want to obliterate a city, it fundamentally treats the audience like children.
Oh, interesting.
It spoon feeds you the exact moral conclusion you were supposed to read. It says, look, they were sad once, therefore their current evil is understandable. It flattens the character into a neat equation.
A causes B.
Exactly. But the mystery surrounding Yubaba is precisely what makes her feel like a real three-dimensional being.
Because we don't get the whole picture.
Real people don't come with an index of their past traumas pinned to their chest. When you meet a difficult person in real life, or a ruthless boss, you don't get their back.
No, you definitely don't.
You have to navigate their complexities in real time. By refusing to give us the prequel, Miyazaki forces you, the viewer, to actively participate in the story.
You have to do the work.
You have to speculate. You have to piece together the rigid rules of her world based entirely on observing her action. It engages your critical thinking rather than letting you passively consume a prepackaged moral lesson.
So the ambiguity is the point. You aren't told what to think about her. You have to experience her complexity and decide for yourself whether the sludge of her greed outweighs the fierce love she has for her child.
Precise vagueness breeds realism and fantasy.
I love that. And I think that perfectly encapsulates why she remains Ghibli's greatest, most enduring antagonist.
She really is.
When you look at the totality of what we've unpacked today from these essays and phonetic guides, you see a character balancing an impossible number of contradictory elements. She has that hilarious Mr. Krabs-level penny-pinching EO greed, but she pairs it with genuine, terrifying magical.
Yes.
She navigates a complex, rigid bureaucracy of contracts and oath, and underneath the massive rings and the heavy lavender eyeliner, she harbors this fiery, ferocious maternal love.
It's quite a mix.
She is a complete, messy, deeply realistic person who just happens to have a giant head and run a bathhouse for radish.
She is unforgettable because
Yeah.
she is uncompromisingly, unapologetically herself. She refuses to fit into the neat boxes we build for our villains.
Well said.
But before we sign off today, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, all right.
Something that builds on the foundation of everything we've explored today regarding her power and her limits.
Lay it on us.
We have spent this entire deep dive analyzing Yubaba's greed. We talked about her dominating physical presence, her ruthless management style, and the immense, terrifying control she exerts over the bathhouse and its workers.
The ultimate.
Right. We called her the CEO. We called her the ultimate boss. But consider the ending of the film. Consider the ancient oath that legally bound her to hire Kihiro in the very first place, completely against her own wishes and better judgment.
Right. She didn't want to do it.
And consider the unbreakable contract she was forced to fulfill when Sen won the final game with the pig, a contract that compelled Yubaba to let her most valuable disruptive worker walk out the front door for free.
She had to watch her leave.
Exactly. So here's the question. If Yubaba, with all of her tremendous magical power, her vast accumulated wealth, and her terrifying fire-breathing temper, is still ultimately subservient to the strict, unforgiving rules of magical contracts and ancient oaths,
Yeah.
is Yubaba actually the one in charge?
Oh, wow.
Or is the true antagonist of this fantastical world not the witch with the big head, but the invisible, unfeeling, bureaucratic system of labor and contracts that traps everyone in that building,
Yeah.
even the boss herself?
That completely flips the entire movie on its head. Are we fighting the boss, or are we fighting the system that created the boss?
Exactly.
That is exactly why we do this show. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Spirited Away. Keep looking closely at the media you consume. Keep pushing back against those easy black and white narratives, and we will catch